awesome.
I learned from a very important guy in my life that he's fat and old.
You're live now, by the way.
Perfect. Perfect. You know, when you're fat and lazy and in this trade, you want to be able to reach everything that you need. And that's just how I am.
I like that. Alright. Oh, we gotta turn the volume off here. I like that. It's always something, right? It's alright, we'll give people a couple minutes to get set up. The Cube. Yeah, looks like we're on here.
Yeah, we should be that.
All right. There you are. Yeah, there's going to be a delay here.
That'd be fun. Oh, that's
Yeah,
really,
cool.
That's really screwing with me now.
You can't even look at eye contact there. There. Let's give it another minute or so. How long has it been since you've seen this thing? Oh, you like that, John?
I like
Here, I'll tell you what. We'll start with that one.
Oh, DIY repair. I love it.
Oh.
That is... That's good. That is really good.
Oh, it's really classic. Oh, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, happy Wednesday here. Welcome back to another edition of Guitar Gate Live. And I have my good friend with me, Mr. Lee Hirschmann from the Band Shop.
Let's go, guys.
And Lee has the... it's certainly not a privilege. He's forced to work on all my gear.
It's a good problem.
Yeah, and so Lee is based out in Catonsville, Maryland here. And so, let's see, you're a luthier and you've been doing that for 10 years. You do brass, you do woodwind.
Orchestral strings, a little percussion. I don't really work on amps because I don't like to get shocked. And but
I don't mess with my amps.
Other than that, you know, it's pretty much anything I work on. I've had everything in here from bagpipes to tubas. You know, from guitars to mid-16th century restoration pieces for, you know, local museums, stuff like that. It's you never know what's going to come through the doors, and it's pretty wild.
That's so cool, man. And so you've been doing this how long?
So I went to college in 2000. I guess it was 2007. I graduated from Roberta Venn School of Luthery.
Where's that?
That's out in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
And after I went to Luthery school, I came back to the area and I worked for a local music store called Bill's Music. You know, they're the biggest mom and pop shop around, if not in the East Coast. And I worked for them for a long time. Then got out of retail for a while and just focused fully on building and repair. And then I realized it's about time when you and I first met, was when I was working for Mike's Music. I was like, you know what? I really want to learn how to fix a saxophone for whatever crazy ass reason. I was like, I'm going to fix those, you know. So that's what I did. I went back to school. I went to Minnesota State College, Southeast Technical, better known as Red Wing. Mm-hmm. And I learned to fix brass and woodwinds. And now I spend my entire day playing with fire and power tools and musical equipment.
So this is your layer here.
Yep, this is my layer.
This is where they could find you.
Yep. So here we service everything from, you know, basic playing conditions on instruments to full overhauls and restorations. Right. So a lot of the stuff you see back here, this is a lot of luthery tools. So we have clamps to do your orchestral instruments. We have clamps to do brace repair inside of guitars and bass bars for violins and top plate repair. Then right beside that, all the dent balls you see, that is to take out the dents of tubas and or whatever instrument that you have. And there's millions of different tools. Right. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. And then in all the toolboxes in here, there's even more stuff. And then I have an entire toolbox just dedicated just to guitar luthery stuff. So everything from your fret files to your fret presses, pickup winders, anything you can imagine. You know, we do it here, from, you know, making a pickup to complete fret job on a guitar. You know, we do everything in between. Sometimes it's just simple things, you know, customizations like
like this beautiful work.
That's beautiful repair. I did not do this. Did not come from my shop.
It's like, oh, Lee does all my work. Look at this bullshit. So yeah, so the Fender Bullet. This is everywhere I go, people ask me about this thing. because they're like, what the hell is that? And when I worked at Mike's, when you were there, this came through, and it's just one of those guitars. I tell everybody, it's like, if you get a guitar you can't put down, buy it.
Oh, that was,
no matter what the brand is, no matter what condition it's in, because
when this guy came in, you were in between every lesson. You could find you were over there in the corner picking on it, plunking around on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one of the things most notably about this was the awesome repair job. Somebody
you did not do that.
Yeah, I did not do this either. But at some point,
and did you notice the truss rod coming out of the back?
Yeah, this thing is just like it's seen way better days. The skunk stripe's coming out. The neck pocket's been broken.
Yeah, and he's making fun of my jack.
It was a pretty good repair job, for being a home job. But it was one of these guitars that, man, you're always playing it, and I guess you had it for about a year or so before we said, you know what, we need to hot rod this thing for you so you can actually play it live. I don't think you have any frets left.
You just grab it.
Okay.
It's been about 3 years or so.
Okay, so I've recrowned this thing and leveled these frets at least 3 times since he's had it, and I can say
you can go right up and show the camera.
Yeah, I can say pretty much any fret, but this one is by far the flattest fret I've ever seen. Like, I can literally, if I'm running my finger on this, where the G should be laying, I'm not hitting anything. It's smooth.
All right. Well, let me ask you this.
That's awesome.
So one, I want to talk about. So when I brought this to you, I was like, just make it sound like Texas. You know me. I'm not a gear guy. I don't even know what pickups you put in there. I'm sure you don't even remember.
I do. Yeah, I actually do.
But one, I wanted to talk about basic upgrades and stuff people do, but also like, how does someone like me stop running through freaking fret wire?
Well,
like, is that stainless? Like, what is that?
This is just nickel fret wire on here, and I think when we redo this, we're gonna go stainless for you.
Well, I brought it to leave it with you.
Okay, well,
if you want it, if you will accept it one more time.
Absolutely, this thing needs to live on for another. This is an 81. Yeah, this. Yeah. So, it's a couple years older than I am, so this thing needs, it's got a lot of life left, especially now we got the new pickups in there. But you know what?
It's still pretty damn spanky.
Well, everything about this guitar, so for, those of you watching at home or from your office or a lunch break or wherever you're tuning in from, this is by far the slimmest neck I've ever played. I've worked on, it's like, the Steve Vai neck is like a baseball bat compared to that, and that thing's a pool cue. This guitar is just awesome. He's played it to the point that it looks like it was hanging out with Willie Nelson, for the last 30 years.
You can literally insides look like.
What's great, you can see his patterns, and you can see that Mike does not get just stuck in the cage system. He's not just a first position player. Frets 1 through 21 on this thing are all screwed. They're all printed. But you can see his patterns. He's definitely expanding his modes and his scales. He's not just staying in one thing, which is pretty cool.
Because it's fucked everywhere.
Normally, I just see like D, C, and G on something like this. Something this vintage, I can see like your C chord, your G, your A, and your D. But not on Mike's. This thing is, man, they're torched.
All right, so stainless is the way to go if you tend to run through frets.
If you're going through frets, stainless is a really nice alternative. It's going to be a little bit brighter just because it is a harder metal.
Is it more expensive too?
Not too much. Cost wise, if your local repair shop is hammering you over the price of what they're going to charge you for the materials, that's the wrong kind of shop to be in. With us, when we do, in just most shops that I like to deal with and I dealt with before I got into repair, it was an all-inclusive thing. You have your options, what fret wire, what size, and stuff like that do you want. There shouldn't be upcharges for, the fact you want a medium jumbo fret wire versus a narrow or, something wide and tall. Where there's going to be additional charges is, say, something that has binding on it, or if it's like the old school Gibsons, and even current Gibsons where the binding goes over the fret ends. That's a little bit more expensive just because of what we have to do. But on something like this, just getting them out is going to be...
I was going to say, can it handle another fret?
Yeah, it can definitely handle another fret job. You got plenty of fingerboard thickness left, but I bet at least 1 or 2 of these frets are actually going to come in half when I go to pull them out because they're just worn in half.
But, I had someone ask me, when I was showing this to them a while ago, and they're like, how much you pay for this thing? And I was like, I paid like $300 for it, $350. And they're like, and you put new pickups, and how many times you got new frets? Like, how much money are you going to put in a guitar that is worth less than... And I was like, but you know what? It's literally, like, that's the advice I tell anybody when picking out a guitar or doing repairs. Like, if you have something that you can't put down, stick with that because you're going to play more and you're going to get better.
There's a lot to be said.
That's my view.
I'm going to approach it a little bit differently. It's the same exact concept, For me, this ratty old hammer. This might cost me $17. The first one of these I had, when it broke, I literally was sobbing. Okay, it's an ugly hammer. It's burnt. It's worn. But there's something about this hammer, you know, just the way it snaps.
It's that hammer.
Yeah, it's that
hammer.
It
feels like your hammer.
And even when I buy the exact new one, it's not right. You know, it's not warm.
It's not your hammer.
And the other thing I think, when you're buying equipment, it's like with tools. Okay, they don't cost you money. It's not an overhead. Tools make you money. You know, your instrument's going to make you money. You can't look at the cost of the price tag when it comes to that. Yes, you want to be conscientious of a budget, but at the same time,
it's not really an investment. It's a tool for you to make money.
Tool. It's going to make you money. You know, when every guitar I've ever bought, except for one recently, has always been used. And I never worried about the price tag. I picked up every instrument in the store. I was like, wow, that's what I really like, you know. And for me, when I got my last Tele, it was just one of those things. I knew exactly what it was. It was everything I wanted in a guitar, you know. And
can we show it?
Yeah, if you mind, let's grab it. It's the let's grab that coat really quick. So for me, I've always been a big Fender guy, a big Gibson guy.
Look at this thing.
But typically, I come to Teles. So, you know,
which, by the way, he's a bitchin' country player. Although he, you know, every time I ask him, he's like, "Oh, I'm too busy. I'm too busy."
I plunk around. You know, I spend my time fixing other people's problems. You know, our job is, as a repairman, we want to work hard so your instruments don't have to. And when I got this thing, it needed some love, but I picked this up.
I love that.
The bird's eye on this is
Dude.
beautiful. So I got this at a great little store in Northern Virginia called Fox's Music. I do a lot of repair work for him. And I was actually there with my girlfriend. We were shopping for viola for her. So her viola cost me, you know, a brand new guitar. So we're down there. She's trying out some really nice violas. And Lauren, you know, was at the sales counter. And I was walking out. I almost made it out of the music store without buying a guitar. And then I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I saw this top. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a semi-hollow, you know, that's a Tele. It's a thin line Tele with a Koa top. And I've been saying for years I was going to build one. I got literally a piece of 200-year-old Koa in that room waiting to be built. And I was like, I'm going to finally build it. And then I was like, I'm just going to play this thing for a little bit. And I picked it up, and as soon as I touched the neck, I knew I was done. You know, and this is a 63 reissue style neck. It already has the modifications I would do on a Tele. You know, very similar to your guitar, just one volume, one tone.
Dude, and I love that. Yeah,
it's just simple. I don't need a million tone knobs and everything, you know. And I don't tap dance on stage. I don't have 10 million pedals. If I can't get the sounds out of my amp and on my guitar, I got no business playing, you know. And,
I couldn't agree more.
You know, it's like, why complicate?
You know, and the more options I have, the more I think, and the shittier I play.
Well, Metallica, they're not tap dancing on stage. They got somebody, literally, their job is to sit up there and do the pedals. I don't have that luxury. I don't have that disposable income. So, you know, for me, I'm very bare bones. The biggest problem on a regular Tele, this is normally your three-way switch right here, and you can't do any volume swell. So if you're doing any type of country licks or just any control, you're reaching down and hitting your pickup switch. Right. The other thing I liked about this specific model, it already had the mod, so it's got compensated D&G saddles on this, and that's something I normally make on the lathe. And it had the TV Jones classic neck pickup in it. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous guitar. And, you know, it even had the upgraded tuners. It has the Spurcells up there.
It's beautiful.
It's everything I wanted in it. The only thing I've done to it, besides setting it up and polishing out the frets, was I took the gold anodized pickguard off of it. I can't stand pickguards on a beautiful top.
Yeah, it might cover up the wood.
Exactly. So this is going to get a nice clear guard on it just so I don't go through the nitro on this guitar. But man, this is just one of those players that it spanks. It's lively. It's got a lot of warmth to it, and I can get everything, you know, from a really nice bluesy tone to just a real heavy rock. The bridge pickup is a no-caster pickup that they made for this model, and it's just, man, it's just a bad little guitar. But you know, there's things that you can do on your own guitars to get these type of sounds. Like with your specific guitar, this came in just wired like a regular Strat. Except the only difference was it had one volume and one tone. And
you remember the one pickup was a microphone.
The one pickup was already shot as it was.
Yellow.
So when Mike gave this to me, he's like, "Yeah, let's make it sound like Texas." I think the exact words you used. And I was like, "Okay, well, what does Texas sound like?" You know. And so I looked around, and we ended up going with a set of Fender pickups for this. Specifically, this is Sumerian Cobalt noiseless in the neck and bridge pickup. At the time, I had an American Deluxe Tele, and I think you played that, and you're like, wow, I really like how this sounds.
I remember.
And I think we contacted Fender, we figured out which exact pickups were in that model, and we ordered you a set. And then for the middle pickup, I believe, if I remember correctly, that should be a Strat, specifically like a 54 Strat middle pickup that Fender makes as well. And we just wanted you to have that, wide range.
It's got a nice balance, man. It does.
He's got the Strat sound, but it's the Tele, and this specific set is more like you'd find in what they call a Nashville Tele, which is the 3 pickups, the 5-way blade switch on it, and then your single volume and tone. But when that plugs in, it does not sound like a bullet. When that thing, when you first had it, was so microphonic and it would feed it back really bad. But it was kind of cool because you could do, turn right towards your amplifier and get that nasty loop cycle going on, and it would just.
Which I'm a fan of.
Yeah, it's a cool.
Here,
sound.
I'll put that back in.
Oh yeah, for you.
Here. Awesome. Yeah. See, that's why I bring my stuff to you, because you know all this stuff, and I just don't.
But I mean, even with the cost of the pickups, you're talking a couple $100 mod. Okay.
Yeah.
To go buy a guitar that already has this substandard, you're putting a 1 in front of that price tag. I think you got this for like $300 or whatever. Yeah. American Deluxe Strats that come with this now, you're talking, I think, almost $1,600 for that model. So, yeah, okay, you can save a lot of money if you do it yourself.
Dude, I'm like you. I mean, I haven't purchased a new guitar. I can't even tell you when. Nice used guitars, you can throw some good pickups in there and clean them up, set them up. Save a ton of money, and they're not like cars where they go bad.
No, not at all. And even if say you want to go the high end route, and you do want to buy a new guitar, that's cool and everything. But like a car, they do depreciate pretty quick unless you get good quality, like a PRS. They hold value really good, right. And Gibson. But the price point of a Gibson anymore is just astronomical. Yeah. Pollard Smith is up there, but unmatched by anybody. Even though I'm a big Fender guy, nobody can match what PRS does at that factory. Yeah, let's be honest. Their quality control is insane.
Oh no, it's super tight.
It's everything is very consistent. For me, they're almost too pretty to play. I want something that I can beat up. Yeah, here I am talking after I just bought that, artist custom shop. But that's never going to go out. That's my inside guitar. What's going to go out is my Butterscotch Blonde, my 3-tone Sunburst Teles. Something that I want to get beat up and look old. Like, I can't wait for my guitars to look like this. I don't have enough time to play them. I'm too busy fixing your stuff and everybody else's to get them to look like this. And I cheat, I wear my watch when I'm playing. I'll wear a belt buckle. I try and beat the hell out of it. I just can't do it, You, on the other hand, I'll give it to you for a weekend. Just let you just stress my guitar.
Dude, you want to know something that's funny? So, again, I don't know much about this stuff. But so, I'm playing that PRS 594.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Which they gave me new 1 year ago, already getting the divots in the frets.
Really?
And I don't know if those are stainless or the nickel or what they are.
I have to double check.
But I haven't. I hope Gene's not watching. But I haven't taken them in yet. to get it set up, because they're like, what the hell are you doing with this thing?
Well, you play probably more than anybody, and I don't know if it's your technique. You do a lot of vibrato and stuff, but. This man is the hardest man I've ever met on frets. Like, I have some serious cats that play through things, but it's funny. It's not like an acidity thing. Like, you never have corrosion wear from sweat and stuff like that, because I know you do wipe your stuff down.
It's just blunt force trauma.
Yeah, it's just exactly blunt force trauma repeated over and over again. And some of that, the chicken picking and some of that snap, I kind of wonder if that exacerbates it.
I think it does too. I really do. Well, let me ask you this. So one thing. I want the subject to see, what you could talk about is, what do you see people do, or not do rather, maintaining their guitars, so that maybe they have to see their repair guy less, or keep their instrument a little better. Like, what do us guitar players neglect?
The biggest thing I'd say that's neglect, number one, is wiping down your instrument when you're done playing. Nowadays the stage is a little less hot. It's LED lights in most of the good clubs, but
it's not smoky inside.
Yeah, there's not smoky inside. But how many of them are you just sweating like a pig when you get off stage?
Oh yeah,
most of them. You know, and simply just wiping down your strings. When you spill that beer in between sets down your guitar, wipe it off.
Which, by the way, builds character.
It does,
especially on Fenders.
It does build character, but when it's all down inside your electronics and gets soupy, and then I got to deal with that, that's pretty gross. At least wipe the things down. Simple things, from a maintenance standpoint and just a tuning standpoint. You have them wrapped nice. You have them wrapped perfectly, actually. So many times guitars come in and they don't clip the ends of the strings off. That extra vibration takes out a tune. Okay. Simple things, you know, in every guitar case.
And for ones that I don't have locking tuners, I always tie the knot.
Absolutely, yeah. If you do that little slip, you're never going to have that problem. You know, a few things every guitar player, in my opinion, should have in their case is a Phillips head screwdriver, your standard regular flat blade screwdriver. These are just cheap. You can get these at Harbor Freight or Home Depot. Simple things. You can tighten up your tuners. One of the biggest reasons tuners, you know, fail and everybody wants to be swap their tuners out because they're not adjusted properly. Making sure those, you know, those pinions are tight. And then a couple other things. Just a couple nut drivers, you know.
I love it.
Half-inch nut driver. You should all have in your case. I don't know how many guitar players come in and this jack right here is loose and, well, this one's just broken. But, you know, half-inch nut driver is going to be your number one go-to for that. And if it's not that, you know, keep a 10 millimeter and a 7/16 in your case as well. 10 millimeters is
you taking notes?
90% of your guitars out there, these tuners, okay, that have that lock nut on top of it, it's going to be a 10 millimeter, unless it's Spurzell and they have their own size for that. But, you know, keep the 10 millimeter and a 7/16. When your pots get loose, okay, there's nothing worse than that pot spinning all the way around, and if you don't tighten it down, people break it. You know, this was just honestly talking about specifically with electric guitars. But when you have a loose pot, your signal can cut in and out. You can have no broken wires, but just because it's not tight, it just wiggles around and things can short out, you know, or you'll get this crackling sound and it's just awful. So we want to make sure all that's tight and clean. That's something we'll service. But ESP actually makes this tool right here.
I've never seen this.
This is the go-to. If you don't want to carry all those wrenches, this is, they're made by ESP. I have a little blue protective tape on mine. What's great about this, I don't even have to take my strings off. It slips right underneath the strings. I can tighten my tuners.
Oh, that is slick.
I can put it right here on my jack. Well, if you didn't have all these extras in there, and tighten it up. And it's thin enough, it slips right underneath of my knobs, and I can tighten up the pots if I need it. So this is a really handy tool to have laying around in your case. I think this is maybe 14 bucks or something like that. And that's saying high end. But you can get this from Stuart McDonald. You can get these at musiciansfriend.com. I think right on ESP's website too. But that's something, you know, totally handy to have laying around. You know, and another thing, you know, if you are a tool junkie like I am, they make really thin wrenches too. You know, if you want every size that's out there instead of just a universal wrench, you can go buy every wrench in the world and get them slim. But, you know, it gets pretty expensive in here. There's a lot.
And heavy. How heavy is your board that you bring around?
So for me, that guitar stand, we're not showing right now, that's actually my road case. It pops up into a guitar stand, but it's also a toolbox.
Gotcha.
So, you know, I can throw stuff in there or whatever. I'll grab my tool bags. But every one of my guitar cases, you're going to find that. You're going to find a string winder, okay?
Yeah.
In the shop, I'm a little lazy, so everything's on a power drill.
Can't beat power tools, man.
No, exactly. And who doesn't love a power tool? But this is a super quick way to, you know, restring and unstring your guitar. At least have the winders with the cutters on them. There's nothing worse than fumbling around. Okay, you restrung it, but now you don't have a pair of side cutter pliers laying around. And then
you do it at the gig. You stick your stinger in the arm.
You know, so and then
which I've done.
Yourself in the eyeball. You know, I'm sure Kristen would probably appreciate it. I'm sure Kristen loved that.
No, she says hi, by the way. She's a big fan.
What's up, Kristen? That girl's great, man. I've known her for years. Yeah, she's a great singer, great little guitar player. She was in here not too long ago having some stuff done, and it's kind of cool. Like, this is somebody from my childhood, you know, that you're playing music with. It's absolutely killer. This is something else, you know, guitar players and bass players. These are available from Planet Waves, which is Diodario, same company. It's a winder, cutter, peg puller, all in one. Yeah. If you don't have these in your case, put them in your case. You know, I love to see when my clients actually have that type of stuff in their cases. And always extra strings. Yeah. Always extra strings. Like, you know, like, there's nothing more embarrassing to go and watch a band play and he busts that E, you know, 3 songs in, and then he's up there flubbing around trying to, you know, like, how do I get around that, you know? Yeah. And if you have a tremolo and a string breaks, you're going to be out of whack, you know? So you want to make sure you have those things. For sure. You know, this has a maple fingerboard on it. So there's not too much maintenance you're going to do to the fingerboard other than you can wipe that down. Heck, you can wipe the whole guitar down with Pledge if you don't want to buy, you know, guitar polish. It's fine for that.
Sometimes I just take it in the shower with me.
Yeah, throw it in the shower. The ultrasonic machine, you know. So,
I just stand out back and Andy squirts his face with the hose.
There's a video I'll have to send you where there's literally a guy. It's a how-to video on YouTube. Go Google it. And it's this guy who literally has a bucket of soap and water, and he's just scrubbing everything, scrubbing the fingerboard, scrubbing the pickups,
just like getting it all in there.
Just with the old sponge. And I'm like, oh, I cringe every time I see it, and I cringe every time I see my clients do that, or they say, hey, I just tried to clean it. Like, I watched this video and I did it, and now it doesn't work. It's like, well, Yeah, like, it's gonna be an expensive fix.
Think about it, genius.
So this guitar right here, this is actually the first guitar I made in college. So we had, you know, Roberta Venn, you had to build 2 guitars, and this one is something that
did they make you do 2 different styles, or did you improve on the first model?
You had to build one electric and one acoustic. That was your minimum requirements. And then I took the mandolin course, so I built a mandolin there, and some people made amps and all that. But I took, you know, some other stuff. I did pickups while I was there too. So this one is actually modeled off after the guys here in Maryland, Paul Reed Smith.
Yeah.
This guitar has the PRS neck joint. Sorry, Paul. So if you take this pickup off, it's got the long 10 and it comes all the way down under the neck pickup. So PRS versus Gibson versus Fender, the neck joints are different, okay? PRS, long sets them in. It's a warmer sound, especially in the neck pickup. Because of that, you can do some nice carving to the back of the instrument so you can actually get up there.
That's pretty slick right there,
but
man.
the neck joint comes in pretty far. So you get a really nice contour. And with PRS, you can actually get all the way up to your fret. So I wanted to use their joint. I used their scale length too. It's a 25-inch scale length. Fender's 25.5, Gibson's 24 and some change. But for me, I liked the scale length. It was something very comfortable. When I built this, I used some jumbo frets. You can actually see they're pretty flat. I built this almost a decade ago. So this thing's in, you know, finally in the shop and on the bench to have some work done. We're going to recrown the frets and we're going to hydrate the fingerboard because it's super dry. And this is something you guys can do at home. From Dunlop, they make this product right here, Dunlop 65. This is the greatest lemon oil that's out there. A lot of these other companies, Paul Reed Smith's lemon oil I like too, but a lot of these companies use paraffin waxes and all these extra additives to it. I do not recommend that. What it does to the wood, it actually blocks you from re-oiling it later if you get waxes and stuff like that. So get yourself some good quality lemon oil. Well, the other thing I like about this one versus a lot of the other companies, it has a felt applicator.
Oh, so you just...
Yep, so we can just literally wipe it on there. And this fingerboard is going to suck in a lot of oil. You know, it's the old shoe cobbler thing. I'm busy working on everybody else's stuff, so I never get to work on my own stuff. So
do a combo with me.
Yeah, normally it's not going to take in this much oil if you guys are doing this. This is something you can, you know, oil regularly with string changes. In my situation, because it's been so long, if we rehydrate it the way we need to, I'm probably going to actually pop up the frets. What's going to happen is it's going to swell that wood and those frets can actually let go and push up.
Yeah.
So if you find that, you know, you oiled it and all of a sudden you got this fret buzz, that's what happened, okay? That's something that I know is going to happen to this guitar. It's okay. It's already going to get
just prep.
Just be prepared if you've never oiled it before. The other thing that's nice about this is if you get a nice little waft, it's a nice lemony scent when you open up your case. You know, one thing you can do for, you know, if you're a heavy smoker or 420 enthusiast, if you have that smelly case, throw some dryer sheets in there, okay? It'll be shockingly different how it's going to smell every time you open up that case. And it won't smell as bad, you know, when a cat pees in your case or something like that. Throw the thing away. Do not bring me cat pee cases or instruments.
Jesus Christ, no.
I've
found
everything from dead animals to sandwiches inside of, you know,
like a mouse inside of an acoustic.
I had the last thing I had inside of an electric. The guy whose complaint was it was shorting out. Well, he had some Colombian Bam Bam in there, and a little tinfoil ball, and it was shorting out and everything. It's like, why does this not work? I'm like, well, here you go. You know,
cool.
We find all kinds of weird stuff in there. You know, you will not get that back. It comes to my shop and gets started away. I'm sorry.
All right, so now what I want to do is I have a couple specific questions for you, but I want to open it up for anybody watching. If you got, we'll give it a second for people to catch on.
Why the one glove? Okay.
Well, there you go.
The one glove. I have a nasty cut on my left hand, and I'd rather not bleed on everything. And normally I will wear them on both hands, but just while we're talking, I'd rather not have a gross open wound out.
Gotcha.
What's up, Dad? And Kristen, we love you too.
So I was going to say, anybody that has any gear-related repair, upgrade, you know, questions, throw it up there. And while we're waiting for that, so I have a couple questions.
Yeah. Please shoot.
So the first one is acoustic players or people that have nice acoustics. Like, you know, you did work on my Taylor 510.
Yeah, that's seen some better days.
Yeah, but it's another one of those guitars. Now that's a valuable guitar, unlike this one. But that's another one where it's like I picked it up, it had the magic, and it will never be sold for any reason, regardless.
Do you remember when it went missing? When all your guitars went missing? When it was in your car during the snow? So, real quick side story.
I've forgotten more stuff than I remember.
Real quick side story. Mike had the worst luck for I think it was 2008, 2009, somewhere in that decade. I thought I had it bad.
What year have I had good luck?
His car gets stolen, not once, but then a year later to the day, his car gets stolen again. Well, we thought it was stolen. Turns out it gets moved during the freak snowstorm.
Lost it for 3 weeks.
But his car was gone forever with all of his gear in it. So we thought his car got stolen. And how much snow was there?
Oh, that was that year where we had.
I think that was snow.
No one went to work. Yeah, no one went to work for 3 weeks in Federal Hill.
Yeah, we were shut down.
Yeah, man.
I had to pick him up. It was just bad. So finally.
And I thought I lost.
Yeah, we thought we lost everything. Yeah, I think that was in there.
It was. Yeah, it was all in there.
We get this phone call one day at Mike's Music.
Which, by the way, real pro tip: don't leave your gear in the car.
Not in the wintertime, ever. If you're not comfortable, your instrument's not comfortable. So please, for the love of God, bring it inside. Bring it comfortable.
If you're not comfortable, your instrument's not comfortable.
It's a very simple thing. If you're riding around, if you have a pickup truck, please put it in the cab of the truck.
So that was the question I was getting towards. God, I can't believe you remember that.
Oh, I absolutely remember. Because when the detective called and said, we found Mike's car, I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, we found his car. So I remember giving Mike the message, you coming in, you were so ecstatic. You're like, my stuff, they got everything's in it. And sure enough, his guitars were in the freezing cold, buried under the snow in his car for months. And it finally gets it back.
Yeah, and so Lee got to do this.
I got to fix that.
The moisture restoration on that Taylor.
Yeah.
So anyhow, my question is, not for stupid mistakes like that, for people that have, especially acoustic guitar, fine instruments or whatever.
Yeah.
I always like to leave my stuff out so I pick it up and play it. Right.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you have HVAC in your house. You're not really keeping it climate controlled. Should I keep it in the case with the humidifier? Because I feel like, especially with guitars that are, 30 plus years old, that are really thin,
mm-hmm.
I feel like it's always kind of going out, or there's some cracking,
So there's a couple.
But I love leaving it out, so I play it.
Absolutely, and for me, every room I've ever lived in, and all the houses I've been in, I've had really supportive parents. Shout out to my mom and dad. Thank you guys for that. My dad let me put up all my guitars, hanging on walls. So every room I've ever lived in looks like a music store. You walk in, there's just guitars for a ceiling, and that's great. Actually, if your instrument's out in the environment in which it's primarily living in, it's the best thing for it. Okay. Long as there's a few things you got to consider.
Not right under the vent.
Not right under a vent. If you're going to hang your instrument up on a wall, don't do it on an exterior wall. Do it on an interior wall. So if you have a room that goes to another room, hang it on that wall. So it doesn't
get that contact temperature
Exactly.
change.
Like for me, my guitars wreaked havoc on. I didn't know when I was younger.
Probably going to speak up.
Yeah. All the...
Love this.
Oh yeah, the blower just turned on. My walls in my bedroom, 2 of them went outside, and guess what? Those were on the guitars. So they constantly went through these humidity changes, adjusting necks and everything. Now that I know better, I make sure that they're either on a stand away from an exterior wall or hung on a wall that's adjacent to another room that's inside. That makes a big difference. Temperature makes a huge difference in the house. It costs me a lot of money, but I keep the house at about 70 degrees year round. I run a humidifier and a dehumidifier.
So even in the winter, you run it as high as 70?
I keep it year-round rated 70. And working from home like I do, it's not just my instruments that are in jeopardy, it's everybody's instruments. Yeah. And this is just not for guitars.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point.
I work on woodwinds and brass instruments and everything else. Brass can take the toughest abuse out of them all in terms of temperatures, but at the same time, we don't want the oils and the greases that are inside of it to get really hot and cold, because they'll congeal. And with the string instruments, man, if they get too cold, everything starts to shrink and contract, and that's when you're getting finish checking, especially if you go from a cold to a hot temperature. It's going to ruin your finish, it's going to make your adjustments go out of whack. So for me, I recommend as much as you can, keep it out. You're going to practice, but if it is out and about, in the wintertime, at least in Maryland, our humidity's all over the place. I run a humidifier. I like to keep it at that 30 to 50% humidity level. Above that, some weird stuff starts to happen. Below 30, we're in the danger zone. The stuff is going to get really dry. You can check that with this simple thing with the hygrometer. I think Planet Waves now has an app for your cell phone that you literally keep in your room.
How's the cell phone check humidity?
It's literally it does it Bluetooth. So you have a little sensor that you keep in your case or on your instrument, and I'll tell you what the dew point is.
It's amazing.
It's so awesome. As much as I drag my feet about technology, embrace it. With your cell phone. I have a Peterson tuner just like my rack tuner behind it on my cell phone.
Strobe, yeah.
You know, and it's unbelievable how accurate it is. You know, now that they have that humidity app, it's unbelievable. You don't ever have to worry about it. You know, there's also the storage. Some people think it's best to store the instrument without any tension on it, with nothing, just let it sit.
Flying too.
Yeah, and flying. You know, flying, I would at least down tune it, especially if you have a headstock that cants back and that doesn't have a volute that's actually in the right place.
Interesting.
On a headstock that kicks back like this, if any impact happens, it wants to snap off. You know, think about every Gibson you've seen with the, you know, the Gibson smiley or the Gibson frown. They always break. Okay, and even with the Gibsons from the 70s, when they did a volute, they didn't do it in the right place. This volute or scallop should actually be exact in line with that nut, and they're not. So you want to be conscientious of that. So down tune these type of guitars when you're traveling. With your tremolo guitars,
You know your stuff, man.
Well, with tremolos, right? You know, this is a hardtail.
Right.
This doesn't matter. I honestly, I could ship that guitar strung up and be fine if it's going ground transportation. I personally like to down tune everything before I get it sent to places. But if it has a tremolo, the problem is as soon as you take it out of adjustment, when you get to that gig and you go string it
set
up,
it all back up. Yeah.
unless you know the one trick to do that, which is to take and shim something underneath of that tremolo and keep it fixed in its place. And you tighten
That
the
is a
spring.
pro
Okay.
tip.
Okay, when you're restringing a tremolo of any type, lock
Make
that
it
tremolo.
fixed for treble.
Yeah, make it fixed or whatever. But you can lock that trem down, and then you can do everything. And then all you got to do at the end is loose up your screws, and you can take your shim right out of there. And then you don't have this crazy string versus spring tension. There's some really cool things that you can do when you're restringing the instrument. But like a Floyd Rhodes, think about all the moving mechanisms. You got the locks down here, the locks up top, and then you got your 3 springs in the back.
That's why, like, on my one guitar that has a Floyd Rose, that Wolfgang,
Yeah.
it's not the full floating.
Exactly.
I got 5 springs on the back, so it just dips, so it acts like a hardtail.
And
that also helps with the country bends too. So
big time.
Yeah,
Exactly. If you're doing those the B bends and like a lot of the triad bend stuff, which I know you like to incorporate in your playing. If you don't have these little things in place, you're gonna have a hell of a time. Or you're changing one string at a time, and nobody has time for that. You know.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So get back to storage, and then let's see if any questions came up.
With storage, you definitely want to make sure that if it's going to be long periods of time where you're not playing it, before you put it away, we do a few things. Simple as if it's a rosewood or an ebony or a darkwood fingerboard, except for Rickenbacker because they actually lacquer over their fingerboards. Everybody else has them exposed. So you want to make sure that we hydrate that properly. Okay. If we're going to be storing it for a really long time, go ahead and you can take the strings off of it for no other reason than the rust factor. Okay. Unlike metals are going to corrode quicker.
Unlike metals,
and even like metals are going to fuse together. Unlike metals aren't. But sometimes when you have those 2 unlike metals like this, before we got here, because it looked really gross, I didn't want to show it on camera. I had to wipe this down, and it was the 2 unlike metals between the nickel covers and the strings. It gets some weird reactions. Some activity can happen with the metals. Okay. So we want to make sure we prep for those things. If you're really, really nervous about it, you can take the tension off your truss rod, okay? Typically, you're going to find your truss rod at the top of the neck or at the heel.
The guitars don't want to rest with a certain tension on them?
I personally would prefer them to it, but, there is a train of thought that if taking that tension off of it, nothing's going to happen, where in this situation, your truss rod is actually coming out the back of it. That could just be just because it's really old and the glue joint's probably failing is what's happening there.
And this, you'd have to take the neck off to adjust.
Yeah, this one is a heel style. With this, if we take this pickguard off, I think I modified it already so we don't have to take the whole neck off. I think I gave myself a little access carve.
And like especially with this one, you don't take it off, it might just break again.
So, and that's the thing. You got to be careful of it. I've seen them both ways. I've seen good and bad happen with both of them. It really depends on your climate. Some areas, if it's really, really dry all the time, then you're going to make sure that you take the tension off. You don't want it to, and if you get really, really cold, same thing. If you're out there in California, where it's 70 degrees all the time,
perfect
humidity, you guys can do whatever you want to do.
Just go to Rouse and come back, you're good.
Unlike here in Maryland, it was snowing. Yesterday it was snowing, and then today it's like it's gorgeous outside. It makes no sense.
28 in the morning, 68 in the evening.
For Marylanders and places with multiple climates throughout the year, and where it's not just always spring, it's not just always summer. You got to make sure you have your quarterly neck adjustments done. You want
quarterly is when you
quarterly ideally for Maryland, just because our weather's so extreme.
Yeah.
Some places you can get away with maybe once, twice a year. And it also really depends on the player. If you're gigging out all the time, so you're going to have it done a little bit more. And especially if you're not thinking about it. Like if you get to a gig, don't just rush there and open up your case. Get it there, let it be to room temperature.
Now that's an interesting idea.
Especially on a really cold day. If you can get there early enough, let your instruments sit there. Get acclimated to that room as much as you can. Open it up, just let it sit there for a little bit. And once it's, say it's like a snowy day and you're playing that Christmas, rain or whatever. You want to make sure that instrument gets up to temperature. Because the moment you pull it out, that body temperature that you have versus how cold your instrument is, that's going to create a lot of tuning issues right there. Compounded with that shock, you can check your finish, you can have all kinds of issues. So if you let it just naturally warm up,
that's
let
fascinating.
it sit there. This is something that my father years ago, he explained to me. Even though he's a keyboard player, it really hit home with me, and I think his dad might have told him that as well. But it makes a big difference when you get there. Just get there a little extra early. Just let it sit there before you just start beating on it. And you're going to find it's going to hold much, much better tune for you.
Gotcha. So. All right, let's see if a question came up, and then we'll wrap it up here. Looks like you got one at the bottom there.
I have a Gibson Les Paul. I replaced Lector several times. I have a hard time. Okay. So, that's actually,
Purchased the guitar new in '74.
Yeah, so that's an old thing. So, switches nowadays have really gotten cheap, from a lot of these different companies. But there's some companies that are out there that are still making really quality parts. Your Stuart McDonald's.
Yeah, that froze, okay. but the live stream is still going.
There's some companies that are out there that make some good stuff. Switchcraft is one of them. And then, a lot of these companies like your Stuart McDonald's, WD, they're getting it from the same places for the most part. But, if you're having a hard time finding a good quality switch, you can actually get them from Gibson. If you want an OEM part, you're going to pay out the wazoo. But this is a Switchcraft switch. I really like these. And if it's the Gibson Les Paul, it might be a right angle switch. Or it could be your straight toggle. Personally, for Les Paul style switches, this is actually what's about to go on my guitar. I prefer these open terminal style, so I can actually get in there and adjust the switch, and I can change the tension of these.
Right.
When you get other companies, you don't necessarily have that option. Like if you get like the cheap Ibanez style, it's a closed box. You can't adjust everything on them. Same thing with the switches and your pots. You can get some really cheeseball pots. These all components have a lot to do with how your instrument sounds, and it will kill it if you don't buy a quality part.
Right.
Like the cables that we're using here in the shop today, those are the Monster Studio 1000 cables. That's
these are great cables, man.
Like they are incredible. Now, granted, we're plugging into like cheap old amps, but why would you want to mud up those really expensive pickups and that really expensive amp that you just bought with junky cables? This cable right here, it's just killer. You're gonna pay out the wazoo for them.
How much are those? $50 or something?
Like $150.
$150?
I think this was $150. See, I've had the pleasure of working always in music retail, so I've always got to pay a few dollars less than most consumers. But yeah, these are killer. These actually I got many years ago. The first music store I worked at, our Monster rep sent us the wrong cables, and when I contacted them, we're like, it's too much paperwork. Just keep these instead. I ordered just the regular rock, and then when I saw the difference in price, I was like, oh, okay, like I really won. So. These are absolutely awesome. So if you're in the studio, you get a really nice true cables. Like Tsunami makes a really nice cable too.
I use the Mogami stuff. I have for a long time.
They're great, and you want to make sure you have a quality cable. If you're going to spend the money to buy quality pickups, like the Marzio stuff, unlike a lot of companies, it's actually an American-made product. The Marzio is one of my favorite pickup companies for a few reasons besides, like the boutique stuff, like my Lindy Fralins, my TV Jones stuff that I use. Every DiMarzio is actually made to order. So if you
every single one,
so as me as a dealer, or Bill's Music specifically, they're the biggest dealer in town. You actually order each pickup. They don't just have them on a shelf, and they make them to order, which is really awesome, especially for quality control. I can't tell you how many times I've had other companies that rhymes with Duncan that are dead right out of the box, and that's really frustrating. EMG makes a good pickup, but personally I don't like active. I feel it's too sterile. If you're doing a lot of effects, it's really great. You get a much better signal path for that stuff, and they don't get really mudded up. But for me, I just like a good old-fashioned passive pickup. This one specifically, the 36, the Path 36 anniversary. This is by far my favorite pickup that's out there. It used to be the number 6 from Paul Reed Smith, but they don't make that pickup anymore.
Used to be the number 6.
It used to be the greatest pickup that they ever made, Paul, if you're listening. That was a really great sounding pickup, but that's what's going to go back into this blue guitar right here. The other thing that we're going to do with this, and this is something, you know, when you guys visit your favorite repair shop, simple things like this is a push-pull pot, and that's going to replace my tone control in this. Now, there's a big problem that I just want to get on my chest because it drives me nuts.
Go for it.
All the time, people say, "Oh, I want a coil cut," or "I want a coil tap." There's a difference, okay?
I made a video about this and got a bunch of crap because I was saying it wrong.
Oh, it drives me bonkers. So a coil tap is actually a special type of pickup where it's actually a whole extra coil that you're activating when you go into that. A coil cut is what 90% of your guitars have. Coil split. You're actually turning off one half of your pickup to go into the single coil mode. There are actual taps, but it drives me nuts. All of our suppliers in our industry, they call it the wrong thing all the time, and it's just like, no. I'm like, I get really excited. They're like, oh yeah, it's a tap pickup. I'm like, sweet. And then it's just, no, it's just a coil cut, you know, a coil shut off, whatever you want to call it. But you can do all kinds of things with this. You can do phase switches. You can make these kind of into anything. On this guitar, the other cool mod that I've already done is a tone switch. So right here, I took out the 3-way already, but this is a switch that I can turn on and off. So I can have just a regular capacitor, or when I turn it on, I have a black ice, which basically gives me an overdrive built in my guitar.
Really?
So if I'm playing something clean and I flip that on, now I get this nice broken up sound with it naturally through the guitar. These black ice you can get from a lot of different places, but Stuart McDonald sells it. It's a really simple little mod. It literally just wires in like a regular capacitor will.
Yeah.
But it's a cool mod that you can do on your guitar to take to your local shop to have done without breaking the bank, but taking that guitar and just giving it a completely different sound. And another really popular mod is this. This right here. So this is a high pass filter. I pre-make these and I install them all the time. So as you turn down...
You pre-make these?
Yeah, I pre-make these so I can just drop them in guitars. So think about your Strat. What happened, or anything when you're in simple and you roll off the volume, you lose all that shimmer.
It's all
This stops that. This lets the high signal still come through. It's a simple mod that you just wire into the volume control of your instrument, and I can't tell you how many people thank me and have me do that on their instruments. It's something that Fender did on some models that was standard, but it's these little simple mods without getting crazy. You're talking $30 to $100 mods on your instrument, and you can take it and just take that next level and fix a lot of these headaches that you have.
That you don't even know are fixable.
Exactly. And actually, can you grab the middle Tele?
Sure.
This is the last one I want to talk about on this one. There's two things, for you Fender guys, and it doesn't matter if you're a Fender or Tele or whatever. Recessed jacks on your guitar. This is an electric socket jack. This actually tightens onto the jack itself, so it's not only the nut, but it's actually the jack housing. I never have to worry about a loose jack again because it screws into the body and it threads on.
Genius.
It's one of those things that you install this, which we'll probably put on that guitar.
Yeah.
You'll never have to worry
about it. Once you gig with it, once you've done all your guitars.
Yeah, and every Tele I have, I switch this out. It makes a big difference. So when I'm plugging, I don't ever have to worry about it fobbling around. And if you've ever worked on a Tele, it's recessed, it's hard to tighten down. There's this little spring clip inside of it. It's very frustrating. Strap locks, a very simple, $20 part. Every guitar that's out there should have strap locks on it, or at least the cheap dollar plastic
the big one,
for no other reason. You just spend $1,200 on a guitar or whatever it is that you drop, and you're gonna risk it on a $299 strap, no. And then something like this, locking tuners. I don't know if any of your guitars have it, but Paul Reed Smith has
the PRS does on the top,
and they're great. These are the Fender ones Schaller used to make for him. These are great, makes string changes super quick, but the fact that it holds tuning much better. And then other things like Schaller makes all kinds of guitar parts. They make the strap locks on these guitars, but decorative things like these are wood tuning pegs. They're available for the PRS guitars too, and they come standard on some of them. But it's a decorative touch, but it's something that makes it unique to you. But these are the possibilities are really endless. It just comes down to what do you want it to sound like, and having those conversations with your tech, and saying, hey, this is what I'm after, and having trust in your technician, and knowing that they're going to work with you.
Yeah, that's the truth. And I feel like a lot of people don't know someone that they trust in the area. They've had some bad experiences, and it's.
The box stores have given the whole industry a bad name.
Don't go to the box stores to get your work done.
If you find somebody that's in a private shop that's got training and it's got experience, and be willing to work with And one thing that I do for my clients that when they want to do these mods, I have all these are already on a piece of wood, and I literally just gator clip into their instrument so they can have this type of switch, they can have that pot or this capacitor, so they already know what it's going to sound like. So we're not wasting your time, wasting your money. There's little things like that, you know, like I make my money by you breaking stuff, but I want you to spend your dollar as far as it can go. You know,
Yeah.
I want to do the setups. I don't want to be doing these repairs because you left it in your car or you threw it down a flight of steps. Like, I don't make money on those repairs. I'll be honest, because I start nitpicking and then I go back and
the
I
hours
never,
creep up on you.
and I never. You have to say it's good enough at a certain point in time, but when you get as a perfectionist, you don't draw that line, and then things go haywire, and it's like, shit, I should have stopped when it looked good. You know?
Yeah.
But,
Well, clearly I'm lucky because I have someone that really, really cares. And if you're lucky enough to have someone in your town that, you know, went to school, knows their stuff, has the experience, but also really, really cares about giving us tools that we can work with and make money, and takes the time, like, you know, figure out what sounds like Texas, you know, like, take the time to get to know our instruments and really help us. It makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate your work, and all you guys that are in this Mid-Atlantic region, I cannot speak highly enough about Lee and his shop. It's called the Band Shop. We're here in Catonsville, Maryland. And so just one more time, tell people how they can find you.
Oh yeah.
And we'll be sure to drop any links in. But Lee's the man, if you can't tell.
So once again, I'm Lee Hirschmann. I'm the owner of the Band Shop. I'm here, you know, Catonsville, Maryland. We do have a new location coming soon, so stay tuned for that. But you can find us on the web at www.thebandshopmd.com. So, as in Maryland. You can check us out on Facebook at the Band Shop. You can also get us on Instagram. I think it's the band.
I tagged you on Instagram.
I don't hashtag very well, so but I do put up cool pictures. I like to bleed. But you know, we have all that. You can always give us a call at 410-617-0584, and just give us a shout. Let us know what we can do for you, how we can help you. We're open to really any type of job. You know, it's like one of those things that if you can dream it, we can do it. You know, we don't do too much building these days, but if it's what you end up wanting, hey, we'll build it for you. If it's not on the market, we'll make it happen. So
awesome.
Thanks for tuning in.
You're the man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Can you save my bullet?
I can save it. It's gonna be a little bit of love, and I'll trade you.
Yeah.
I'll let you take one of those home.
Oh, you don't have to do that. I got stuff.
We can save this. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, stuff like that, and I'm actually going to track this. So when we do the repairs, I'm going to make some videos of this, because there's some really cool stuff that for players that need to know how to deal with, and some things like some of this finish where some of this we will leave because of aesthetic reasons, but some of this we're going to have to address. And we're going to talk a little bit about...
the nut. It pops off all
the nut's going to come right off.
Yeah.
But when we do these little videos, you know, I'll be sure to tag Guitar Gate into it so you guys can follow the progress. So.
All right. Well, thanks enough. I really appreciate it. And Band Shop, Lee is the man. I totally vouch for you, man. You're the best. I can't believe you remembered that damn story about the snow.
You kidding, brother? That's one of my favorite all-time stories.